Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, a show that takes a look at society's expectations and rejects the ones we don't see it for. All from the perspective of three Black queer best friends. I'm one of your hosts, Jordan, and today, Tony, Damon, and I are discussing the gay community's obsessions with all things skinny, snatched, and sculpted. Do we have implicit bias against certain body types? Does the obsession with our body types create a toxic environment with people with less celebrated body types? This is Skinny Legends Only. Skinny Legends Only. All right, so today we're discussing a topic that transcends Black culture, queer culture, and that's the relationship we have with our own bodies. And for some people, it can be a healthy, beautiful relationship. But for a lot of people in this country, body image can be a very toxic relationship. We're very excited to have this conversation with a close friend of ours, Aaron Randall. I like to think of Aaron as like our well-researched news source.
Yes.
He's a journalist by trade and currently producing another podcast centered around refusing to accept things as they are. So it is no surprise that he would make a perfect guest for Surface Level. But we'll speak with Aaron a little bit later in the episode. For now, I want to play a game with the three of us.
All right now.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
So
Are you?
You know, it's a good nervous.
You feel tingly inside.
so eager?
I'm eager.
Don't look me in my eyes like that.
I'm ready and willing
You know what?
and able.
If you ask me, I'm ready.
So we all know that Aaron's a former reporter for the New York Times.
Yes.
So I thought it would be fun to do some trivia around some of the biggest headlines in news in the last 20 years.
Know the girls.
That sounds exhausting.
I mean, it's just indulge me. All right. So in 2007, the most popular branded consumer electronic device was launched. Was it the iPhone or the MacBook?
2007. It was the iPhone. The iPod. Was that an option?
It was definitely the iPhone.
It had to be the iPhone.
Because I remember we went to college in 2007, and I remember I had a BlackBerry. And I was like, I'm not getting an iPhone. I need buttons.
Yeah.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Or the MacBook? Well, the iPhone I feel like was out way earlier. Or maybe not.
I don't know.
2007?
Child, what's the answer?
All right, so it's the iPhone.
Okay, she's talking about, is it your
you
answer?
cannot be making a second guess.
Well, if you know the answer, you know the answer.
Well, I didn't know the answer.
Exactly.
I did.
You're looking for them context clues.
I said iPhone.
All right. So yes, the iPhone came out in 2007, and between 2007 and 2018, they've sold 2.2 billion units. But the MacBook did come out in 2016. 2006. So just a year earlier.
Oh, okay.
I thought that would have been more confusing than it was, but whatever.
Yeah,
I digress.
Trying to trip the girls up.
I don't get tripped up. Tony be riding my coattails to success.
Okay.
Sure.
In 2008, America elected its first African-American president with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
But he also broke this record as well. Was it the most money raised by any presidential candidate in American history, or the highest number of electoral votes received by a presidential candidate?
The most money raised.
I can't even answer. Do I get to answer? Now I just got to say what Damon says.
No, you say what you want to say.
Well, I don't think it was the highest number ever of electoral votes. I don't know the full history of our presidency, but I'm just going to say the most money raised because at that time.
It was at that time because Joe raised more money than him.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question, Damon, you answer second.
But you know but speaking of politics, you know what's crazy? Like you used to win the presidency with like 500 electoral college votes.
Yikes.
Like Ronald Reagan lost one state.
Yeah.
What?
Like Jimmy Carter lost 2 states. Like it used to be that. Like it wasn't as divided as it is now.
Yeah, and the 1984 presidential election, Reagan won 525 out of 538 electoral votes.
Baby.
Yeah.
But before that, George Washington, he ran unopposed. So it was giving all of
Period.
them. All of them.
Period.
Giving, why do I even run with you girls?
She dropped the mic and said,
All right.
okay.
I won't
But-
answer the next question.
But Obama, he raised $778 million. That was the most money ever raised by a presidential candidate at the time. Hillary broke that record in 2016 with over $1 billion. And then Trump broke that this year with
Nice.
$1.5 billion.
Okay.
But no, Joe Biden raised more money than Trump.
Joe Biden did.
No,
Did he?
it was just Trump raised just a little bit more. Like I think like it was a difference of like a couple of hundred
Joe
million.
Biden broke all the like monthly budget, like records.
It was really close. Joe Biden was like 1.5, and I feel like Trump was like 1.57.
Child, ain't none of them giving any of that money to me. So let's move on.
Don't matter. We know what the president is.
I'm annoyed.
So, in 2010, the U.S. experienced the largest environmental disaster in its history with the oil spill off the Gulf of Mexico. How many gallons were pumped into the Gulf of Mexico? Was it 6.2 billion gallons or 200 million gallons of oil?
Tony, what you think about that?
I don't think anything about it.
See,
I
she
don't think
care
about
the
it at
envi-
all.
She don't care about the environment.
Let's go with the higher number just because, for shits and giggles.
6.2 billion?
Yeah, sure.
Damon?
I'm gonna go with that too.
Okay, it was 200 million, and it took 87 days before the gushing was fully capped.
I knew it was that one. I just wanted to be dramatic and go with the higher one. See? Look
I
at
know
me.
that's right. Okay, so the last one is a little sciencey. Well, it's not really. It's kind of sciencey. Okay, in 2015, NASA became the first human-made object, or NASA created the first human-made object to fly past and observe the planet of Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take for the spacecraft to reach Pluto from Earth? Was it
Don't matter.
9.5 years or 4.5 years?
9.5 years. Let's be dramatic in the same vein as the last question and just go with the higher number.
I'm with Tony.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
It took
January
9 years.
2006.
Something to get to Pluto.
That's when they launched, January 2006, and they didn't reach Pluto until July 14th.
But Pluto not a planet
2015.
no more.
Wow.
It's an idea.
It's a star now, isn't it?
I don't think it's a star either. The girls are idiots.
Who won this?
I did.
Okay.
Sure, let's give Tony one. Oh, it's me now.
Why you over there talking shit?
Moving on from our weird trivia Pluto notes, and moving back into the topic of gay culture and body image, a lot of how we present ourselves and how we experience interactions with gay men is about body and how we look at ourselves and how we look at other men. When did you guys first started paying attention to the aesthetic that you presented to people? Jordan, maybe let's start with you.
It probably, I mean, I feel like body has always been sort of like a topic. And like
The body category.
It's always been
Miss
a topic.
Candy.
No, like I feel like it's always been a thing, but I feel like growing up it was more so like you're really skinny type of thing, like you're like a scrawny person type of thing. I don't think that it was until college maybe, or even just like the very early years of New York, that I felt like my body was like celebrated. And then I felt like that sort of fed into this idea that I needed to like maintain it, or that there was some level of urgency that needed to be taken to make sure that I like made it so that I can continue to receive those compliments and that celebration. So I think that body's always been a thing, but I don't think that it really hit me in a way where I was like being proactive about maintaining it until probably like my very old teens and very young 20s.
That makes sense.
What about you, Tony?
Well, similar to kind of what Jordan is saying, is like I never realized that I was living with a certain level of privilege. Body image was something that was more of an afterthought for me because I was always this scrawny little fella, and I didn't particularly care about muscles or working out. I hated that part of gym class where we had to, go in the weightlifting room and the changing of the clothes in the locker room.
You hated the changing of the clothes in the locker room.
At that time, I did hate the changing of the clothes in the locker room, but I embrace and lean into it now.
Lie again.
But there's no locker room for me to go in.
Lie again.
Lie
So,
again.
my grandmother used to say, "Why you lie so?"
Well,
You love the locker room moments.
But no, I mean, I didn't enjoy it, and I felt out of place around a bunch of hetero macho guys that were into sports. So,
Interesting.
I wasn't into the sports, but in college, I got immersed in gay culture and quickly started to realize that the gay community celebrates fit, thin, that they celebrate those body types. And if you looked a certain way, you were glorified. And it was at that point that I started to pay more attention to the way I presented myself and the thoughts that I formed around what I even found appealing based on what gay culture and societal quote unquote norms are or were or is, because I think it's still pretty much prevalent today. And now, so once I moved back to New York after college, pressures around body image were only amplified. And as we get older, I think there are pressures around keeping that youthful, snatched appearance and keeping the body tight and right, because the minute you start to lose yourself, folks won't hesitate to let you know that, oh, girl, you gained a little weight. Like, you squirrels into those jeans, and listen, it can, yes, you squirrels into those jeans. But it can be a very tough crowd, and the community can really make you feel that you have to look a certain way in order to fit in and have a seat at the table. And if you're part of this community, you feel like you want to fit in and belong. But, with all you vicious motherfuckers, it do take nerve. Believe me. And the way some of y'all look, like, you shouldn't be judging, but, I'm not going to be shady today, just fierce. Damon.
Okay. Well,
I don't.
hold up.
Hold on. Did I just
got slapped in the face. I didn't know what just happened. But
Listen.
Moving on.
I said what I said. So what else is going on? Damon.
Anyway, I think that a lot of it has been my experience in New York that's made me think a lot more about physical image and presentation. Mm-hmm. New York has been the place where I've been most openly queer and in a lot of ways, like, celebrated for my body, or it's just like, oh, you're slim, and you're like, people have been into that. Or even just like the work I do, I work in fashion. Like, it's been a thing where I've sat in rooms and we've had meetings in which we decide like what is and is not flattering for a body type.
Right.
Like, which is crazy to even think about. Like, as I've gotten older and you think about some of the conversations and experiences I've had and some of the things that we have glorified, or some of the things that we have portrayed, or some of the things that the parameters we've set for people and how they dress themselves, has been it's sometimes ridiculous. Ridiculous experience.
I think I learned a lot about your world just by watching Devil Wears Prada when they talked about cerulean and being in that room, and you thought you just chose that, but no, actually,
but
and I want to add on that. I feel like I was managing a photo shoot. I think like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I was working with a retailer to do all the fashion fitting for like all the people in my agency that were going to be a part of the photo shoot. We had one agency of the year, so we were doing like a magazine editorial. And this guy who had been helping me out with like getting me clothes together, like I thought that he was like the sweetest guy. He gave me all this like help and attention. Obviously, I was managing the account as well. But then I realized that he was interacting with another person on my team completely different. And it was a guy who they didn't really create a bunch of options for his shape and his size. And instead of like trying to figure out solutions for him, he sort of, like the sales associate, created an attitude around him and almost treated him like it was an inconvenience to have him there. And it's crazy because like I could have left that experience thinking that this was a great place to patronize, to work with. Had that colleague not come up to me and just been like, yo, like I feel uncomfortable. Like this is how he's talking to me. It's crazy. Like,
yeah, and I think it's one of the things where when you talk about brands, people will just oftentimes in that industry say like, well, this is just our brand. And our brand doesn't have to be for everyone. And so flippantly and so condescendingly talk about it. And it's unfortunate, but I think in all of that, like it's obviously a lot easier for us to like look outside and to criticize. But if we were to take a more introspective look and we think about our friend groups and the people that we hang around, to be fair, there's like a quite consistent aesthetic. Most people are either thin or most people are either muscular. You can tell people either they're naturally thin or they're working out. Do we think that that is coincidence? It is a... do we think that's coincidence and it's something that is a reflection of how we've built friendships and relationships over time? Or does that have something to do with some of our own implicit biases or things that we have as individuals? Maybe Jordan, let's go back to you on that one.
I think that, it's definitely both, right? I think, at least from my experience, I tend to move in whatever space I feel like is the easiest. And for me, I felt like the people who would come up to me and initiate friendships with me were all sort of homogenous. And I typically, if I feel like a relationship is easy, I'll go forward with it. I didn't really even think about this until a friend brought this up to me a few years ago. And they made the comment about me, like, only having friends that look like me, essentially. So I think that for a while it's been a very implicit bias. I hadn't really been giving it too much thought, but I think that living in New York and having the pressure of that, I was subconsciously curating the people that I was hanging around. And yeah, I think that you sort of see how you sort of see how things in New York work. You see like people being treated poorly, and you sort of sometimes you think about like, okay, well, like, is that going to make it more difficult for me if I initiate a friendship with someone who's going to be experiencing all of this? And like, what do I do to help in that? And sometimes it's easier to not think about it. And I think that it wasn't probably until like maybe like recently, like within the last few years, that I've just been like, you know what, I feel like I need to take a beat away from the New York, this is what you need to, the formula of this is what you need to do to be successful and to be socially successful, and really take a deep look and say like, who do I actually fucking like?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like once I took on that lens, I feel like my friend group took on a completely different look and feel and experience. And I feel like, yeah, I think that for a large part of my New York career, that had been a thing. And it's crazy because I don't think that was a thing for me in college. I think in college it was a lot less of that pressure. I think it wasn't until it was New York where it was just like, where are you going? Who do you know? Who's getting you a job? Who's getting you into this party? Who's doing that? That you feel like, oh my goodness, like, am I curating the right space to make sure that like I can achieve all of this access and benefit?
Right. It's give very much this or that.
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting that as queer men, we have all these qualifiers when we're talking about friends. And a lot of times, to be really real, you develop friendships based on people you're attracted to. Like, think about when you're out and about, like you meet people, you're like, oh, he's cute, I want to talk to him. And like sometimes it may evolve into a relationship and such, cool. And then sometimes it's just a friend. And I think that is also one of the things that is this qualifier around thinking about body image and the things that like I'm interested in, because like you think about, oh, I want to sleep with that person, or that person makes you a little hot. And just think about like friends that we've had for years and years. It's just like I learned many years ago not to ask gay men like, oh, how'd you meet somebody?
Oh, baby.
Because the answer can vary to a whole lot of things that people don't want to chime into.
But that's always an interesting question when you start dating someone and they ask how you know your friends, and it's like,
well, we used to roll around, but but I think that also is one of the things that creates this exclusive space, and it creates people where like you find friends that look like you because people are vain and they're interested in themselves.
Yep.
So I think that's also another layer that's involved specifically around queer men that I've really noticed in time. And sometimes I look around at my friends and I'm just like, child, this is absurd. Why are we all like this? This is ridiculous. Tony, what are you thinking over there? What's bubbling beyond?
It's a lot
beyond
over
the
here
surface level.
bubbling. But let me just say this. I don't hand select my friends based on how they look, because there's more to being friends than just fitting a look to me. And so I don't want to be around you if you're just a pretty face. Like, that's cute, but what else is going on? You know? And now don't get me wrong. I think that folks, like literally what you were saying, Damon, is part of my response to this, because I think that folks naturally gravitate towards other people that they might deem attractive. Name a person who doesn't like to be around beautiful people. I don't know one. So I think that it's hard to make.
So your friends are shallow.
To call it what it is. I mean, shallow, sure. I don't even know what to. If that's what you like, that's what you like. But I also think, again, to my point earlier, that there's more to being a friend than just how you look. But I think that it's hard to make friends, especially in a city like New York, because I think when we meet people on the onset, it's about like that physical attraction. You know, you might identify someone who you want to be cool with, but it probably starts with some level of physical attraction. And most people don't know how to have a platonic friendship anymore. And now, although I don't feel like I went out of my way to, handpick friends who have a certain aesthetic, that might very well be an unconscious bias of mine. And so in my head, I may have convinced myself that this is a coincidence. But I do have a very close friend that I want to bring into this conversation. And it's a close friend of mine, and he's become a close friend of my circle and you guys. And he also went to Howard University with us and graduated with us. And, he's a bison. And I just want to bring him into the fold here, because I think it'll be...
You can call you on your bullshit.
Interesting. Look, call me on my bullshit. Get me together. Snatch my wig. But no. So Aaron Randall is a graduate of Howard University. He's an award-winning journalist, storyteller, and communication specialist with over 10 years of experience covering race, marginalized communities, culture, entertainment, and sports, having worked previously at the New York Times and at his hometown newspaper, the Kansas City Star. Go Chiefs. I do know a little bit about the sports sometimes, every now and again.
Wait, what sport is that?
Football, baby.
They throw the ball, catch it.
They just won that big, when they, at the end.
The Super Bowl.
That thing.
1st and 10.
That we watched Beyonce moons ago.
Didn't that happen during COVID? Wasn't it canceled this year?
They got the weekend.
The Super Bowl's in like February.
Super Bowl's in February. See, you don't even know. Anywho, he's currently a producer at Gimlet Media, a Spotify company. Get your life, tech. We love a tech coin around here. And then now he's working, coincidentally, on a brand new podcast entitled Resistance. And today, we welcome Aaron Randall to our Surface Level family.
Woo.
Yeah.
Turn your mic over, girl.
Greetings, Sorors.
Aaron. Every time I see Aaron, I say Aaron. So, fun fact. The first instance or the first interaction that I had with Aaron Randall was freshman year. And
wait, hold on. Y'all got the same last name. Y'all cousins? What's going on?
We have the same last name, different spelling.
They married.
He's L-E,
they like us.
I'm LL.
They're like us. We're husbands. They're husbands.
But it's confusing.
They lesbian married.
It can be confusing, and it was very confusing for Howard University because freshman year they gave my room away to Aaron Randall. So Aaron Randall was on the floor with all the business majors, and I was on the floor with all of the co-ops majors.
Mm-hmm. What floor were you on? You weren't on 5?
I wasn't on 5. I was on 3 in Aaron Randall's room.
They messed his room up, and they switched them up.
Yeah.
So you were on 5.
It was a Freaky Friday.
And
Child,
Aaron
what
was
were
on
we?
five with the business majors.
I should have had a double.
Emoji or Nia? What was our floor, child?
I was on the second floor with the game.
No, we had all those like.
Yes, I remember.
Oh, and that triple.
Yes. I wasn't in the triple, but the triple.
You were in the triple was in you.
I saw that coming.
Don't do that.
All right. All right. So obviously, Aaron is not new to this group, but he is new to the podcast. He's new to the listeners. So we like to play a little game just to get people a little bit more familiarized with who you are. Mm-hmm. We're going to play a game of this or that. And I want you to be honest. I want you to be quick. And I want you to start now. Ooh. 4 a.m. or 4 p.m.?
Talk to me like that.
4 p.m.
Big Lotto or Big Sean?
Lotto.
Reading or writing?
Reading.
FaceTime or text?
Says the journalist.
Text.
What is your love language? And for the people who don't know, the listeners, the options are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, or physical touch.
Quality time.
Oh, okay. You're the first.
That's mine.
You're the.
Someone
you're
finally came on the show with a quality time. Yeah, quality time is my
really, Tony?
love language. Yeah. That's the way.
That's mine too. Mine is quality time.
That's why we married.
And physical touch.
Well, you know.
Touch my.
When
So
we spend
y'all
quality
love
time, we physically touch one another.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
That's the goal.
That makes sense. It's a lot of quality time. All right. So, big party or small gathering?
Small gathering.
That's the COVID saving.
Wine or cocktail?
Cocktail.
What spirit?
Y'all done made me a tequila girl. I used to be like whiskey or gin. But I'll say tequila.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little tequila.
Tequila.
Little tequila check.
Tequila. Tequila.
Horror or comedy?
Horror.
Rich or successful?
Rich.
I know that's right. A man of my own kind.
If you're rich, you must be successful.
Okay. I could be rich in the bed. And last but not least, what's more important in a partner, intelligence or humor?
Ooh.
Intelligence.
Ew. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I can watch a comedy special,
Okay.
but I can't cure stupid.
We're not going to be sitting around here dumb. Definitely not going to be sitting around here dumb.
I got the jokes.
But so no, Aaron, I'm so happy that we have you here today. This is going to be a lot of fun for us because we are so we're sisters. We stick together.
That's what you think. So
Cheetah
she gets you
girls,
together.
Cheetah sisters. So get me together. But no, to level set, I think we should start with the fact that you just recently moved to New York. You've only been here about a year now, maybe a little over a year, and it's such an interesting time to come to the city and then have COVID happen and not be able to be enthralled in all of what New York actually is, even though you've visited many times. Like, living here is so much different. So having come from a very different city, you're from Kansas City, Missouri, I would like for you to start by talking about your experience with the gay community there versus your experience with the gay community having been in New York so far.
Well, you know, Kansas City is in Missouri, so that's like Bible Belt country. And
Bible Belt.
You know, it's not as regressive as I think coastal folks tend to like think that it is, but you definitely, I believe, are more muted in places like Kansas City. Like, I mean, I think here in Harlem, like you all, people of all walks of life live their lives as fully and as openly as really they want to, you know? And I think it's because that there are many spaces out there that kind of affirm that behavior and encourage it in a way. Whereas in Missouri, it's not like, you know, you're necessarily being repressed, but they're still building towards that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. You know, people aren't out there, you know, just 100% hiding who they are or not being themselves, but they're working towards that point where they can really just live unapologetically. Mm-hmm. And so I guess in a word, I call it like muted, but it's also a little bit like simpler in the Midwest, you know what I'm saying? Like there isn't as much curation going on. There isn't as much like thought about, you know, perception or what other folks think as far as within the group, right? Intra-group. Mm-hmm. So like within the LGBT community, like once you are fam, it's like you're fam. Right. And I have found that there's so much less stigma and so many fewer barriers to cross, so to speak, in a place like Kansas City. Like this conversation that we're having, today about body image, it's so much less an issue in the Midwest than it is on the East Coast. And that's actually what made it so jarring for me when I realized it here on the East Coast when I got here, because it's just like, oh, there's definitely some positives to being in New York, but like, oh, I didn't have to worry about, certain things, that I am here in New York. So yeah, I guess I'd say muted, but also simpler.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a dichotomy, right, between the two cities. And I actually, I was raised in Virginia for the most part. And so I could say, like, although it's not exactly where you're from, it's probably like similar. You don't have those same issues, or you're not worried about the same things that you would be worried about in a metropolitan space. So what about like DC? Because we went to Howard together. So
I was like DL a lot in DC. Like I didn't come out.
Talk about
like
Trade.
let it out. Let it out.
Good trade is one of my life too.
No, really. I was not really out in DC, and then when I did come out, it was like the very deep. I guess I would be real, like the very deep hoe phase. So it was like I really didn't care about,
Yeah.
So once I began to like actually like look deeper than just like sex, things of that nature, that's when I was in Kansas City. But then it's like, oh well, I'm in a way using like my friends as cues. Like I see how you guys are living.
Yeah.
Me and Tony, we talked every day via text in our group chats at that time, and that was very empowering for me. But it's like I couldn't live in a way that you lived in New York, in Kansas City at that time. And so I think that DC is like a tough cookie. I would love to go back there now that like
baby, go get your life. It's the playground.
Yeah, I'd love to go back there, but
That's the word on
different
the
time,
street.
different story.
You heard. I heard it was the
We heard from Jordan.
So we heard.
Wait, what? No, that's very interesting, Aaron. No, because the deep hoe phase, we'll talk about that off the record. But I think part of the reason that we wanted to have you on today, and especially because around this topic, we didn't really feel like we had the range, like, to just sit here and talk about this, just me, Damon, and Jordan. Like, we felt like somebody else who has a point of view that we know, like, can come in and has researched and has done the due diligence on the topic should come and have a seat at the table. So you recently took to your own social media page to bring up one aspect of body image, which is fatphobia. And I think a lot of us were like living in this bubble until you gathered the girls. And I don't think that was your intention to gather the girls. You were just spitting knowledge.
Living your truth.
Right. You were really spitting knowledge around the subject matter. And I kind of lived for it, but we didn't actually talk about it, you and I, but I saw it and we all saw it. And so I want to know, like, what prompted your classroom lesson? Like, what made you get on there and like school the girls? And if you could talk a little bit about what fatphobia is and what it actually means, I think that would be of value to the listeners and to us, because I don't think we still even are as versed as we could be about it.
Yeah, so like start by saying like I pride myself on, my friend groups and my friendships and just how worldly and how cosmopolitan and how smart my friends are. But that being said, it was really jarring and striking to me in a way to see just how pervasive, how casual like fatphobia is in my friends. Not only here in New York, but specifically in Harlem. My friend groups in Harlem, my friend groups around the country, folks back home. Like it really, everywhere I looked, I saw it explicitly and implicitly. And more importantly, it wasn't like purposeful, right? Like it was, and that's what kind of made it even that much more necessary, I felt, for me to say something, because it was like, I don't think people honestly understand like how violent they're being in these moments. Like I get on Instagram and almost daily, someone saying, oh, I need to work out because I'm a fat ass. And it's like, you have a 30-inch waist and you have a 30-inch waist. Or I'm seeing a stick to thick challenge on Twitter where it's really just skinny people glorifying how they went from being 180 pounds, or I'm sorry, 150 pounds to like 175 with a little bit more muscle. Or I'm seeing, thin people who typically weaponize language like fat against fat people, calling themselves thick or using thick with 2 C's because it's cute. But it's like, you aren't thick. You are very slim to average size. And I don't think that was necessarily intended to be hurtful, but it really is, right? And, as our discernible and knowledgeable queen, the savant Kylie Kristen Jenner said.
Who's queen? Because wait a minute now.
That's the Nubian queen. Y'all don't know?
Child, somebody.
I gotta go.
It's a time about, real.
The helicopter, come get me out of this camp.
2020 is about realizing things, right?
I realized that sounded crazy.
Right.
And the fact that go ahead, Aaron.
It's the savant billionaire.
Where are we going
Jenner
with this?
said.
Continue.
It's about realizing things.
Getting me upset.
And no, I just realized that a conversation needs to be had, right? And we were having one throughout our country, right? We were having uncomfortable truths, uncomfortable conversations, and I felt like if fat folks don't initiate the conversation, then it won't ever happen. And more importantly, people don't even know what fatphobia is, right? It is just it's just innate hatred and othering of fatness, right? And they also think that fatphobia is the same as body shaming. It's not. They think that fatphobia is the same as skinny shaming. It's not. Fatphobia is a system of oppression, much like racism, sexism, misogyny, and I think that people don't understand how pervasive it is and how so many people are complicit in furthering that system. And a lot of my friends who I love and who I know love me are complicit in furthering that system. And the actions and the words that they do daily impacts me, and more importantly than impacting me, it furthers the system of fatphobia and body shaming. And I just felt like enough was enough. I didn't want to personally attack anyone and come at them personally. So I said, let me just say this out loud. Let me list some examples, and then you can maybe find yourself in those examples and
The girls were sending messages like,
Do you feel
what
red?
is he talking about?
And I was
feel like, girl, leave me out of it. I don't know what's happening.
And the key is
He was
I could
talking about
feel
you,
it.
girl.
Right, was it?
And put you right back at it.
The key is I could feel it because literally, when I tell you, because I made sure to end it with, and by the way, if you want to talk, I'm here. I got 2 texts from some women friends who were just chill, and none of the girls hit me up, and I just knew I know that they were probably just was that a personal shot? And it really wasn't. It was a calling to account, but it wasn't me personally coming at you, because I feel like ultimately, and we'll get into this later, I can't change fatphobia. You all can. Fit, able-bodied, slim, average-bodied people, you are the ones who will fix it. The way that it's not black folks' job to fix racism, it's not fat folks' job or capability to fix fatphobia. I just want to kind of just put that out there and hopefully just inspire at least some interest in change, if not change itself.
Right. And to be honest, I am definitely guilty of being fatphobic, I guess, because but it was an unconscious thing of mine. I didn't know what it was, like we were talking about, and that's why we wanted you here today, because I was like, well, what is this? I was huh?
Let's get into it.
So, but no, quickly, because this isn't even a question. I'm just thinking about this off the top. What was some of the responses that you got? What kind of response did you get from people? You put it on your Instagram. What were people saying to you?
Well, first, overwhelmingly, fat folks were hitting me up thank you so much, which was bizarre, because it was people who have tens of thousands of followers who were just thank you for saying this. I had my niece who was fat saying thank you for saying this. I had other queer fat folks saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And this didn't bother me, but it is a reality. I had very, very few skinny folks saying, damn, okay, let me check myself. I actually had a couple of skinny folks hitting me up and saying, actually, you're wrong, or trying to call me out. And I said, well, we can have this conversation if you want to, but just consider that maybe I actually have read on this and am more knowledgeable on this than you are. And then they said, well, you know what? Actually, I'll just fall back. That wasn't them agreeing with me. That was just them saying, I don't feel like doing this with you right now. I actually had a few skinny, able-bodied folks telling me, I'm not trying to hear this. You're overreacting. This isn't fatphobia. Actually, no, this isn't that. I was being told basically,
to shut up.
Yeah. So it was only 2 responses. It was fat folks saying, thank you, I feel seen, and skinny folks saying, actually, no.
Right. So that's interesting, because when I think about exactly what you're saying with those responses being either one one of two ways. What I'm wondering, what would you say to people who feel like they should be able to voice their own insecurities? And, like what you're kind of talked about earlier, like people were like, I feel fat. And those people may be having a bad day. They may be feeling like they're being honest and vulnerable in that moment. But like, what would you say to those people? How can they voice their own insecurities about their own body image without impeding on the way that people who do deal with body issues feel, or may feel like they're fat and you're not fat, you have a 30-inch waist? Because there are other body image issues. There are people with bulimia, anorexia, like on the other side of the spectrum. What would you say to those people? Like, how can they talk about it freely and feel like I'm just speaking about my truth and being vulnerable, and I'm not trying to like, hurt your feelings?
Well, one, I'd say that's valid, 100%. Like, skinny shaming happens, body shaming happens, and I'm never going to shut that down and say that it's not real. But what I will say, it is not the same as fatphobia, right? Fatphobia is a system. It is pervasive. In general, writ large, fat is undesirable. Skinny is desirable. People do get skinny shamed. It's usually to the extreme. It's very rare, but it does happen, and it is wrong. And I don't think that there's ever a problem with someone like talking about that. And I will never shut that down. I will only shut it down when you try to tell me that it is the same as fatphobia, because it's not. And I hope I'm answering the question.
No, you're definitely answering the question. Damon, you have something?
Yeah, no, I think it's important to acknowledge the external and the internal factors about why people feel the ways they do. I think that what the point that Aaron's making is about a society and a thing that tells him or people like him that they are wrong.
Right.
And I think that when you talk about skinny phobia, I don't know if that's a thing, but just generally like the other end of that spectrum and all these things, it's about the internal experience that people have. And like, I don't want to discount that. I think it's important to talk about people who may have eating disorders or people who may be body dysmorphic or all these other things, because they are real and they are valid and they are, and like, I don't think the point of this episode is to say that those things are not valuable. I think the point of the episode is to say that people living in the bodies that they are, like, the goal is to be happy with who you are. And the goal is to respect, one, the feelings that you have personally and internally, and also in other ways to recognize the privilege and recognize the external factors that do not account for your experience.
Yes.
Can I
say that? But that goes to what Aaron's kind of saying about, like, and we started the conversation talking about like the gay community glorifies and celebrates
the equinox gays.
The equinox gays, but we glorify and celebrates a certain body type. Aaron, go ahead. You had a thought.
Well, like there was a tweet that went a little bit viral a few years ago, where this fat queer thinker kind of like just put out like, hey, fat folks, name some things that you do that you are hyper aware of because particularly of how skinny or fit people perceive you or how they've treated you. And the answers were devastating. Like, one person said standing. Another person said, I don't go to a movie theater if I'm not at least 10 minutes early, because I cannot fathom walking down an aisle and having to scooch past people. Another person said they don't go to pride events because they can't imagine being just like with their skinny fit friends. Another person said, I don't go to parties and dance too hard or jump, because if I do that, I know that I could be the ire of someone's or the butt of someone's joke. Someone who had like a nasal condition said that she literally limits her breathing because she doesn't want to be the fat person who's breathing too hard in public or in a space. These skinny people don't worry about getting to having to scoot next to someone in a theater, or writ large. Of course, there could be specific instances, but like I'm just kind of highlighting how fat phobia kind of can transcend and become. It's just a different level than skinny shaming or just general body shaming in general.
Right. Jordan.
I think it's really interesting because I feel like a lot of what you're saying are things that, at least if I'm speaking for myself, that I feel like I've noticed and I've observed, but it was really interesting not hearing you, but like seeing you go to social media, because I think that was the very first time that I saw words put behind it. And it was the very first time that I've heard about fat phobia. And I think it's really interesting that you got a lot of negative backlash, because I feel like it's, to your point, so pervasive. Like we all talk about it. We're all like there is this like fear, you know what I mean, of, gaining too much weight. And it's normalized through media, it's normalized through our conversations with one another, it's normalized with your trainer, it's normalized at the Equinox gays with their gym. And
Jordan's an Equinox guy.
I go to the Equinox just because I really like they have Kiehl's products, because
You're an Equinox guy.
the conditioner is
She's a
really
rich
good.
white woman.
Oh, friends text me and say, I got to get to the gym. I'm getting fat. My friends come to me who are 150 pounds and say, ugh, look in the mirror at themselves, and I'll be in the room and say, look at me, I look disgusting. And it's like they have 6% body fat.
Yeah.
I running joke, I was like, I've been in Harlem for 18 months, and I'll go to parties. I haven't had anyone come to my apartment with a size 34 waist or above that was gay, like that. And that's just a reality. I don't know if that's a curation. I don't know if that's purposeful or not, but it is a reality. And that's what fat phobia is, or being fat. It's about being hyper aware.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, Aaron, like, it's a lived experience, right? Like, unless you are living that experience, you're not really aware of all of the things that someone who is living that experience think about. And so it's important, and I think that's part of why we do Surface Level, is to unpack these conversations and have meaningful conversations. That's why we felt like we couldn't sit here as the three of us and have it without someone like you that can come in and really school us, because you have done the work. So I appreciate this conversation a lot, but I'm interested to know though about the words, and like when people say like I feel fat and stuff, like what can the community be doing to be more conscious about their word choice? What can they say if they want to express like they might feel fat?
You don't feel like your best self.
You don't feel like your best self. I think I'm curious about ways that we, the whole community, can be more mindful about just saying and expressing themselves in a way that's not, hurting and being hurtful to others in the community, if they even care, because some people don't.
Because they're trash.
Well, I gotta say again, like, you guys are skinny, able, fit body people, like, the power rests squarely in your hands to kind of like combat and really like dismantle fat phobia. But really, it's a weird answer in a way, because on one hand, and I should be clear in saying that, I am doing this unlearning myself. I've been 290 pounds and I've been 180 pounds. Like I have, and that was, my weight loss was spurned completely by fat phobia and the fear of it, and just knowing how I felt and not wanting to feel that way. And then I became, thin, and I saw how differently I was treated. And it was really emotionally, like, it was emotionally just so stressful. But let me get back to actually answering the question. So, like, I think
that's
that
important. That's important in context.
It's weird because on one hand, I think that we need to embrace the word fat, right? Even like me, I don't even like to say it. We always say, oh, they're bigger boned, they're bigger, so they're so-and-so, they're thick. They're fat. And then ask yourself, why am I so uncomfortable with saying fat and naming that?
Yeah.
Again, I think a lot of the work that we have to do in this arena is very similar to racism work, sexism work. Like, why are you uncomfortable? Interrogate that and really sit with that.
Yeah.
You can, and then find ways, teach yourself, how can I communicate how I'm feeling without relegating it to casting fatness as a scourge. You cannot like how you're looking physically, but is it just like, I want to feel better about myself? Say it that way. Don't say, I don't want to be a fat ass. Say, I want to feel better about how I look today.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, of doing the work on yourself, do the work on your friends. And when your friends are Instagramming with their abs and 32-inch waist, how I'm coming a fat ass, say, hey, maybe don't say it like that.
Right.
Maybe say, maybe think about how you're saying this. And then also, like, thirdly, talk to fat folks. Like, engage them. Like, really, the way that we tell white folks, hey, yeah, talk to your black friend and see what they go through.
Yep.
See, what, latent things you've done that have oppressed them or made them feel, made them feel less than. Talk to your vet friend. Ask them, was that cool what I did? Or how do you feel about this? And maybe they don't have the answers. That's fine. But even sparking like that nugget can lead to something more profound and can lead to change behavior. And I think people like you guys who have this influence, have this power, when they see you doing that work, I truly believe they will change. Like when Damon, Tony, or Jordan says, hey, maybe don't do that. They may get a little defensive at first, but then I guarantee you they'll think twice and they'll tell their friend. And that's how I think we can really change this whole narrative.
Don't get defensive with me.
Please don't. The girls are scrapping.
Don't get defensive with Damon, baby. Baby. But so Aaron, we're friends and we've known each other over a decade. Like, and you've mentioned that at times you felt excluded, right? And not just in the gay community in general. And I would like you to describe for us maybe some instances where you have felt the most comfortable. What is that experience like? What do the people in that space look like? What's going on? Like, what are those spaces where you feel like, damn, I went to a thing and I enjoyed myself. I felt it was a utopia of a night. You got your life and you went home and we recapped the next day, because that's what we do. Speak about that.
He said,
I mean, because I don't want to get the violin out, but I think that I'm most comfortable when I'm with people who have experienced me, who know me, who I've been around, and who I can just totally let my guard down. When I am in a new space, it's not often that I'm comfortable. I'm rarely ever comfortable. I'm really only comfortable when I have the Judys over and we're Friday night and it's like my intimate friends.
Yeah.
It's you three and our couple of, other friends and we're just in that moment. But when we go to the Boxers, I'm terrified. When you guys ask me to, go to a circuit party, I'm terrified because I'm like, I don't know what I'm giving off, but I'm not saying I don't want to go, but y'all know I love to party. I'm not going because I am hyper aware of what that space means for someone like me, and I don't want to put that labor on you all. So when you ask me where am I comfortable, I am not comfortable most places. I'm keenly aware that most of y'all are fine, thin, able-bodied
Bitch,
folks.
you look good. Don't do that.
Oh, I know I do.
Don't do that.
I know I do. And that's
Aaron is a snack bitch.
And that's the key.
And I know.
That's the key, though. Like
when the world opens back up in New York, we're taking Aaron to the circuit. I've invited him multiple times,
and Aaron's so open and
we're gonna throw
down. He's like the one that comes over, and people get excited. Like Aaron's coming. Bitch, it's about to be a moment. Like
we're gonna throw a harness on her and a little leather.
But Tony, we talked about that, right?
out.
Like we talked about, like I've been in a drunken stupor like at 3 a.m. and just like I've been out with the crew and literally watch. And maybe Boxers isn't the best living set because it's literally a place that's like hinged upon like nakedness and body. But like I literally watched. There were like 8 of us. I watched everyone get hit on and approached and desired, and me not be that person. And that's a common thing that I have to experience, particularly as a fat queer person in Harlem.
Yeah.
That's why I said again, like it's muted and simpler in KC. It wasn't as prevalent there. I experienced it more here. But to answer your question, I'm not comfortable often, but I'm most comfortable when I'm around my actual friends who see me for more than just like what my body offers or presents to them.
See, this is why. The Lord is doing the Lord's work. Actually,
The Lord is doing the Lord's
because
work.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that
Is she?
she's
Come
here
on.
to bring this to light, and I think it's such an important perspective, and like just to put it on the table for us to have this conversation, and for people to just like hear these things, and us to hear these things. Communication. That's the key to any relationship. So I'm really like, for you to say that is just. I'm coming undone, but I love it.
So most things make you come undone.
Well, I could be coming undone a little bit more than I am.
You're always
Again.
coming and undone.
Not the episode.
Not the episode. Anywho.
Not this episode.
But for Aaron, kind of along the same lines of what you were speaking about, right? Like, and going out and being like less than desirable, feeling like you're being less than desirable, because I don't think you're less than desirable. but you felt that way.
You make Tony hot in a cat.
Valid. You make a lot of people hot in a cat. You just speak, and you know I'm a journalist. I have a degree in journalism as well. So the English language, I've always said this to Aaron. Like I always walk away feeling smarter after having had a conversation with you. But for the folks out there, for the girls who feel like they wouldn't have or don't consider being with a bigger guy, let them know what they're missing. And I want you to be candid about that.
Everything, darling.
Look at the smile.
Lay it on. So you know how they tell us as black folk we gotta be twice as good, right?
Lay it on them.
You know how they tell us black folk we have to be twice as good.
Yeah.
Oh, you're 3 times as good?
Oh, wait. Wait, bro.
I'm just.
Say they do what now?
You know how they tell us black folks we have to be 2 times as good, right?
Yes.
There's no, fat fairy godmother telling that to a bigger person, so to speak. But
Yeah.
I will say there's something to say about someone who feels like they have something to prove every day that they wake up. And I just feel like, I know it's cute having that, that IG, that Instagrammable boy on your bed when you wake up. But if you so desire to actually have someone who is used to putting in the work and doing what needs to be done,
It'll blow your mind.
look, 'cause a lot of boys just worry about themselves.
Ooh.
Big boys, they know that they got to represent and do what needs to be done. Need something to talk home.
What needed
To be done.
Something to write home about. You feel me? I'm just saying.
about things.
Well, get your quill.
Oh, get your quill.
Yeah, get the quill out.
Get the quill out.
Do we have any tequila?
He's a tequila girl now.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take that and I'll keep that in mind because it's important. When you know better, you do better.
You report back.
I'll report back.
You always do.
I'll let you know what my findings are. I'm a research girl. So,
Research.
Aaron, just don't listen to those girls over there. Aaron, you worry about me right now. We're going to go home later
Oh,
and recap.
they live together.
I
Let's be
thank
clear.
you so much. Like, you have no idea, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. And I really mean this from the bottom of my heart, Damon's heart, and Jordan's heart. Like this
That's big for my
conversation,
heart.
It's a big heart, and it's so important that we unpack these truths and talk about this stuff, and just be open and honest, and have a conversation like we just had. So we thank you for being here. It means a lot. But I want you to use, and I invite you to use our platform to plug anything that's going on with you, whether it be where to find you on Instagram. I know you got a Twitter that is lit. Aaron's as I think Baby Jordan said earlier, he's the one that we get the news from first.
Hello? If you want to know every angle of the story.
So, Aaron, let the people know. Where can they find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Aaron Ronell, AARONRONEL. But just as importantly, I'm on this new podcast. It's called Resistance. I think you guys will really like it. We're really looking at people who refuse to accept things as they are. And I think that people who like this podcast will like that one. So check it out. It's a Resistance Show on Instagram and Resistance wherever you find your podcast.
All right, that's all the time we have for this week. Let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And if you enjoyed this discussion, please rate, review, and subscribe. You can stay updated by following us on Instagram and YouTube at Surface Level Podcast. And remember, stay curious.